Hello everyone, मैं हूँ चेल सिंह and welcome back to my YouTube channel Gain Knowledge. Today I'm gonna teach you latitudes and longitudes. Okay, so just look at this picture. Here you can see many latitudes and longitude lines or many horizontal and vertical lines. Okay, so in this picture you can see some important lines like equator, Tropic of Cancer, Arctic Circle, Tropic of Cancer, Capricorn and Antarctic Circle. Okay, here North Pole and here South Pole. So today we are going to learn in detail about this all lines. Okay, so before moving on this topic, we'll gain knowledge or we'll study about the types of locations. So there are total two types of location. The first one is relative location and the second one is absolute location. So relative location, which means what? When the position of any place which is described by the help of relating to other places. For example, while I am relating my house with the other places, like my house is nearby the school, or my house is nearby the shopping mall, my house is nearby the hospital, or my house is left to the hospital, straight to the hospital or straight to the shopping mall. So what is that? That is the relative location which I am giving to my friends, those who want to visit. Okay, so here in this relative locations, such directions and landmarks which we are using are right, left, straight and ahead. Okay, so that is the relative location. Here we are relating our place or any place with other places. Second one, absolute location. Absolute location, which means what? It will tells us the exact position where the place is located on the earth surface. Okay, so here we don't want any neighboring position nearby the location which we are going to tell to the people. So it will gives us absolute location, which will gives us the absolute or exact position where the place which is located on the earth surface. So here our home address, which will describe the absolute position. While we are giving our home address to someone, they will be definitely reach to our house. The second one, you can also know about the absolute location of your place from a map. Okay, with the help of map or with the help of a globe, we can get the absolute location. Okay, with the help of a globe, which is difficult, we can't able to get it, need a bigger size, but with the help of a map we can get the absolute location of our place. The next one, an absolute location is a description of a place independent of any other place. Okay, so here while we are giving a absolute location to someone of any place, so at that time we don't need to relate the place with other one. So the place which is independently we can tell that the America or India, which is located in between these latitudes and longitudes. Okay, so here the place which is independent. So that is the absolute location. In simple, relative location, which means what? The location which we are giving with the help of some landmarks on the earth surface, and the absolute location, which means exact position of a place which located on the earth surface. Okay. Next one, locating places on earth. So if you look at a globe, okay, just look at this globe, you will notice that there are axle that helps it to spin. So here you can see axle which will help this globe to rotate, to spin. The earth also spins on an imaginary axle which is known as a axis of the earth. So the earth also is rotating on its imaginary axis. Okay, so which is a revolution, and this line or the axle of the earth is known as axis, and it is rotating on this imaginary lines. The two ends of the Earth's axis are known as the poles. Two ends. Where are the two ends? So this one is axis and this one is end in the north and this one in the south. So this both ends of this axis is known as poles. So the point at the top is known as the north pole and top at the bottom is known as the south pole. Okay, if you see in the southern side, so here the point which is located which is known as the north pole in the northern side, and at the bottom the end point of this axis is known as the south pole. When you look at the globe or a map, you will notice that there are number of lines on it. Yes, you can see here also, in which there are number of lines, latitude and longitude lines, or vertical and horizontal lines. In reality, there are no lines drawn on the Earth's surface. Okay, if you will see, we are traveling at many places, so you may have observed that there are no lines on Earth which drawn. Okay, so there are imaginary lines which drawn on globes and maps. These all lines are only imaginary. Okay, which means we can see the lines only on the globes and maps. They helps us to find out the absolute location of a place on the earth, okay, which will help us to find the absolute or to find the exact location on a place on the earth. So this line will help us to find the exact location of any place. Let us read more about these lines in a detail. Okay, so we'll see more about the lines, latitudes and longitudes. So first we'll learn about the latitude lines. So in this picture you can see that there are many lines which are known as latitude lines. The line which divide the earth into two equal halves between the north pole and the south pole is known as equator, which means here you can see one line which will divide this northern part and southern part into two equal halves or two equal part, which is known as a equator, which means this line is known as a equator. Remember, okay, remember this one. The portion of earth which stretches from the equator to the north pole is known as a northern hemisphere. So the portion or the part which is located in the northern side from this equator, which is known as a northern hemisphere. Okay, northern hemisphere. And the portion of the earth which stretches from the equator, from this equator to the southern side or to the south pole, which is known as a southern hemisphere. Okay, so remember the equator line which is located in between this line and which will divide earth into two equal parts. The area between equator to north pole is known as a northern hemisphere, and between equator to south pole is known as a southern hemisphere. Okay, the imaginary lines in each hemisphere drawn parallel to the equator up to the poles are called parallel of latitudes. Okay, so now just notice here whatever the lines which drawn which are parallel to the equator. Okay, here also all lines are parallel to the equator. Parallel, which means what? So the equator is in this one is one straight line. Okay, equator is a straight line. So whatever the lines which are drawn here and here which are parallel, okay, the distance in between this equator and this line which is the same at every places. Okay, like these both lines are parallel to each other. Okay, so here also 2 centimeter and here also 2 centimeter. Okay, so that is a parallel. So each lines are parallel to the equator, each latitude lines which are parallel to the equator. Since the earth is round, these lines are circular. Okay, so we can see only the first phase of this earth, but the earth is round. So that's why the lines which are circular. Okay. Latitudes are measured in degrees. How it can be measured? The latitudes which are measured in degrees. The equator is at 0 degree latitude. Okay, which means here from this line you can see these lines are 0 degree latitude. Okay, the equator is at 0 degree latitude. The value of all other latitudes is followed by the letter north, n or s. Okay, n for northern hemisphere and s for southern hemisphere. So if you will see here, there are number of lines. Okay, which means here also there are number of lines. While you will join this 23 and 23 degree this side and here, so it will form one latitude line. Okay, so this is followed by the letter of north. Okay, if from equator to northern side, which means 23 and a half degree north, and if in the southern hemisphere, so 23 and a half degree south. This indicates where the latitudes is in the northern hemisphere or in the southern hemisphere respectively. Okay, which means for southern hemisphere S, this letter will be used, and for northern hemisphere N, this letter will be used. For example, the latitude next to the equator in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so the latitude next to the equator in the northern hemisphere, so that is 1 degree north. Okay, however we will move in the towards the northern pole, so the number of degrees which will be increasing. As we move further northwards, the lines of latitudes are numbered as 2 degree north, 3 degree north, 4 degree north, 5 degree north till 90 degree north, and this numbering goes on till we reach 90 degree north, which is known as the north pole at the top. Okay, the latitudes in the southern hemisphere are numbered in the same way till reach the south pole, which is located at 90 degree south. Okay, so same as we move towards the northern side till 90 degree north, towards the southern side also. Okay, from here 1 degree south, 2 degree south, 3 degree south till 90 degree south pole. Okay, the equator is the longest latitude. Okay, as you can see here, with the help of these lines, you can observe that which one is the longest line out of these 5 lines: Arctic Circle, Tropic of Cancer, Equator, Tropic of Capricorn, and Antarctic Circle. Equator, which is the longest line. Okay, so likewise equator, which is the longest latitude, it is also known as the Great Circle. What is it called? It is also known as the Great Circle. As we move northwards or southwards from it, the latitudes decreases in size till they are reduced to the dot at the poles. Okay, so however we will move towards the northern side, so the length of this latitudes which will be decreases. Okay, till this north pole, and at the north pole only 90 degree, which means only dot will be there. Okay, next one, here given some important lines of latitudes. Okay, as I shown in this picture, here you can see the important lines. Okay, at the equator 90 degree at the equator 0 degree, Tropic of Cancer 23 and a half degree north, Arctic Circle 66 and half degree north, and here North Pole at 90 degree north. Okay, same way within the southern hemisphere, 23 and half degree south, Tropic of Cancer 66 and half degree south, Antarctic Circle, and 90 degree south, North Pole. Okay, so same lines which are given here, and one important thing which you have to remember, so there are 181 lines of latitudes. How many lines of latitudes are there? 181. Okay, 90 lines north of the equator, 90 lines south of the equator and the equator, which means 90 plus 90, 180 plus equator, which means 181. Okay, remember it. Total how many latitudes are there? So 181. Now the next one is longitudes. Longitudes are imaginary lines which run from the north pole to the south pole. Okay, which means the longitudes which are imaginary lines which will run from north pole to the south pole. Okay, maybe you have observed these lines on the globe. Okay, which are known as what? Longitude. These imaginary lines are also known as meridians. What is it called? It is also known as meridians. Longitude lines are also known as meridians. Remember it. The two are numbered like latitudes. Okay, like 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees. Okay. According to an international agreement, the longitude passing through the, remember, the longitude which passing through this place, Royal Observatory at Greenwich in England, United Kingdom, which is accepted as 0 degree longitude. Okay, remember it. According to the international agreement, which means on the earth, each and every country they all agreed that the line or the longitude which passes from the Royal Observatory at Greenwich in England, United Kingdom, which is accepted as a 0 degree longitude. Okay, from this 0 degree longitude to the eastern side, there are number of longitude lines, and to the western side there are a number of longitudes. So other longitudes which are drawn to the east or west of the prime meridian. Okay, the meridians of longitudes to the east of the prime meridian are numbered from 1 degree east up to 180 degree east. Okay, so if you will see, so there is, this one is a globe. Okay, so this one is a prime meridian. Prime meridian, which means which is passes from Royal Observatory at Greenwich from England. So this one is that line, prime meridian. And now just we will divide this whole globe into two hemisphere. This one is a eastern hemisphere and here western hemisphere. Okay, so this one is a prime meridian. From prime meridian to west side western hemisphere, prime meridian to east side eastern hemisphere. Okay, so if suppose this one is a 0 degree prime meridian, so if however we will move from this 0 degree prime meridian to west side, so here also numbered as 1 degree west, 1 degree, sorry, 2 degrees west, 3 degree west. Okay, and till 180 degree west. Okay, same way to the eastern side also, to the eastern side also, here 1 degree east, 2 degree east, 3 degree east, 4 degree east till 180 degree east. Okay, so the area between 0 degree longitude and 180 degree west is called the western hemisphere. However, if you look at the globe, you will realize that 180 degree east and 180 degree west, which are same longitudes. Okay, which means 180 degree west and 180 degree east, which are same meridian, so which is known as a 180 or the international dateline. Okay, remember what is the international dateline? So if you look at the globe, you will realize that 100 degree east and 100 degree west is the same longitude, is known as 180 degrees or the international dateline. The distance between two longitudes is maximum at the equator, and distance decreases as one moves towards the poles where the longitudes meets. Okay, so the distance in between the distance in between two longitudes which is maximum at the this equator, okay, which means if just I'll draw two longitudes. So in this both, this one is a 0 degree prime meridian, so this one is 0 degree prime meridian, and the distance in between this both lines, which means this prime meridian and this both lines, which is maximum at this equator line, okay. However, we will move from this equator to the pole sides, so at the both poles it will meets, okay, or the distance of the longitude which will decreases towards the poles side where the longitudes will meet. Now, international dateline. The international dateline has been adopted by an international understanding. It is an imaginary line on land around imaginary lines on and around 180 east and west meridian on which an error of one day occurs while traveling in east-west direction. A day is gaining when traveling from west to east, while a day is lost while traveling from west to east. Okay, so just I'll explain it with the help of globe. Here, for example, 180 degree. Okay, so which is accepted by the international understanding, international agreement as the international dateline. Okay, so here there is one error which will occur while the people they will traveling in. So just I'll divide it first into the two hemisphere. This one is eastern hemisphere and this one side western hemisphere. Okay, so while the traveling in the east-west direction, a day is gained when traveling from east to west. Okay, while any people which is traveling from east to west, east means from this to this direction. So while the people they will crossing this line, so they will be lost a day. Okay, and while they will traveling from west to east direction, so they will be gaining a day. Okay, for example, the first I'll tell, for example, today is 1st June. Okay, so while the people they will traveling from west to east hemisphere, okay, west to east direction, or they will cross this international dateline. So here they will be gaining one more day. Here 1st June, so here 13th May. Okay, so that is the error. Now the next one, while the people they will traveling in opposite direction, which means east to west direction, they will traveling from east to west direction, and they will moving in this direction. So they may be having one day they will be getting, or they will be losing one day. Okay, so that is the importance of international dateline. While they will be traveling from east to west direction, they will be crossing the international dateline, so they will be gained a day, and while they will be traveling from west to east direction, so they will be lost one day. Okay, remember it in simple. Now grid. Okay, so many of you have observed, mostly we are observing on the globes or maps, there are latitudes and longitude lines. Okay, so on a globe or a map you will find that longitudes and latitudes crisscross each other. Crisscross, which means what? These are longitude lines, and these are latitude lines, which are crisscross each other. Okay, so and they will form a network of lines which is known as a grid. So here they are forming a network of line which is known as a grid. Okay, as you can see in this globe, there are a number of grids. The point in the grid where latitudes and longitude intersect each other is known as coordinate. Okay, coordinate, which means what? For example, these are longitude lines. These are latitude lines. Coordinate, which means the place where the latitudes which mean this one and longitude will meet. Okay, this one point which is known as what? Coordinate. Okay, which will help us to locate any place or a point on earth. Let us understand this with the help of giving ahead. So just will complete here about the grid, which means what? The latitudes and longitude lines which crisscross each other and which will form a network of line which is known as a grid. And the grid, the latitudes and longitude lines where they will intersect, the point is known as a coordinate point. Okay, so I hope you all understand about the latitudes and about the longitudes, about the two types of locations, absolute and relative locations, about international datelines and grid. Okay, so if you have any type of doubt, you can write in comment box. You can ask the doubt, I will try to solve it. Thank you for watching this video. For more videos, just like this video, subscribe this channel and click on bell icon to get my recent or my latest updates.